This week on Gotta Go,
Why writers' festivals are my new Coachella.
what Australia could learn from Thailand shopping centres.
I've been doing the Yap Challenge.
And she really wants to yap about it. All this and more on this week's Gotta Go. Got to go, gotta go. Hi, BB.
Hello, nice to see you. You're looking fresh. You're looking very pretty today.
Oh, thank
More pretty
you.
than usual. You always look pretty.
Oh, stop it. And I like your cool jacket. And hello to you listening as well. Thank you so much for jumping in and taking the time out of your day to listen to the potty. I'd love to know where you're actually listening from. Is it like on your way to do the school commute? Is it on your way to work? Or do you just have it on while you're doing stuff at home? Let us know. We love to hear where our listeners are actually joining from. Bryony, I know you went to the Writers' Festival because I follow you on Instagram and I know you're dying to tell me. You're like, it's my Coachella.
I don't want to go to a music festival anymore. I'm like, get me to a writers' festival. I just want to sit and listen to a panel deconstructing the manosphere. I want to listen to Kerry O'Brien do an oration. I want to see what books are coming out. I was just honestly in my happy place. But then at night, Mum gave us a night out and we went out dancing and watched some poetry and oh my God, I was just like, who am I? I feel like a new woman. But so much I want to tell you about from the Writers' Festival. It will not be a shock to you that I bought like 10 books.
Yeah. Add it to your 20 books by your bed, which you have not read.
Literally, there are 20 books beside my bed right now. I need to do a clean out because they're overwhelming me. Got to meet Taria Pitt finally. We've been on each other's, like I've been on her podcast. She's very kindly endorsed my book, but we've never met in real life. She's an Australian icon, I would say. She's a national treasure. She's also hilariously funny. She was an elite marathon runner that got caught in a horrific bushfire during one of her runs and had, you know, severe burns to most of her body. She's gone on to be an amazing author. She's got a huge online following. She does running clubs. She also now goes and does a lot of advocacy, including around women not feeling safe to go running. So she's been going to Parliament and taking that. And they're doing like now a pilot program about how we can make it safer for women to go running in Australia. So like she's
Lock
just
up men at night.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the solution.
We're having a running hour. We're going to lock away all the men. But her book Selfish, which the talk was on, is just, you're going to love this book. We're both going to love this book. It's just all about the time that we're in right now. And a lot of it was about literally the mental load and how do you split things up with your partner so that you don't feel resentful and upset. Another book, Mo. Oh, you'll just love this as a side. I met this gorgeous woman called Ruby Jean Cottle. She writes like young adult vampire fiction.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so inspiring because she's got 3 little boys and a 5-month-old son who was like at the festival, and her husband was meant to be there helping her, but he'd done his back, so couldn't carry the baby, couldn't drive, like literally couldn't leave the house. So she's like, oh, great. So I think she had a sister or a girlfriend with a baby strapped on. It's just like the juggle is real. But it was really inspiring seeing, you know, a young mum who's there being like, yeah, I'm just pumping out my 4th novel and here we go. So I bought that. Can't wait to read that because I'm in my fantasy era. But this book that I think you're going to read this book. I'm telling you. It's called Good Witch.
Ooh, I like the title.
This session was packed. It's by Lucy-Anne Tonti, who's an amazing journalist, and she's the sustainability fashion editor at the Saturday paper and The Guardian. So she's like interesting journo background. It's basically about how the witch trials fucked us all up and is still affecting us today.
Yeah.
And the impact it's had on the natural world. So you will be so interested in this, Mole. It was like she spoke about how, and all these words that we associate with women, right? Like a gossip. Like, so one section's all about gossips. That was a really bad thing to be. But it originally came from the term God's sibling. And it was like your best person, your soulmate, the woman that would be there at your childbirth and and then the men didn't like women sitting around talking. So they turned it into this negative thing and then it became a gossip. And then you get tried for being a gossip.
I think just reading that book though, it just like, sometimes I hate the anger that just comes through every bone in my body and veins about the unfairness of it all and all those women who have like in the past, all those our sisters of the past who have fallen at the hands of men. And it makes me, and it's still happening today. And it makes me so angry.
Well, I didn't realize she said there were, about 100,000 women that were tried for witchcraft.
Yeah.
But 50,000 of them were killed, like brutally tortured and murdered. And this actually all started in the UK. I didn't realize in Scotland.
Oh, I
witch
thought it was
trials there.
Salem.
And then it was imported to America via, so it was all King James, a true asshole of history, it turns out. And
it's a way to control women though, isn't it?
oh my gosh. And do you know what you'll find really interesting? A lot of these women were economically independent and it became a way actually to take their power and take their economic power. Like a lot of the women that were tried for witchcraft were either economically independent or they were going to be they were going to inherit great wealth from their family, they were going to be landowners. So it was basically like 300 years of stripping away women's power and their economic freedom. And interestingly, it's had massive repercussions to the natural world and how we look, because they said until that point, like being connected to nature and treating it like an alive thing that we had to protect was just pretty innate, and women sort of led that. Then it became something that was outlawed, risky and really illegal. And she was saying it's no coincidence that was then the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, where we just saw nature as something to strip and drain.
Yeah.
So she was literally linking things like climate change and the situation we're in now to the witch trials. It's just so fascinating.
It's Mother Nature, isn't it? It's not Father Nature. It's Mother Nature.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted just to share with you, Molly, and then I promise to shut up about the Writers' Festival, is Luke Bateman was there, who is he was like a former NRL player, farmer, and he has blown up on TikTok by like reviewing books like from his tractor, and like the women of the internet lost their minds and were like, welcome to BookTok. You are welcome here. He is working on his first book. So there was a bit of controversy because they were like, oh, he hasn't even written a book yet. Like, what's he doing here? But so he was interviewed, but was also an interviewer, and he was just fantastic.
He's a book ally.
I don't know. He just spoke so beautifully and has such an interesting perspective on toxic masculinity and the manosphere, but just speaks about it in a really, and I just thought these are like the male role models we need, actually.
Did I see him talking about the gambling rules?
Yes. But he said the big four banks made like $30 billion last year. The gambling industry made more. So we sit there and I feel like, people get outraged at the banks and like, oh, they're ripping us off and interest rates, blah, blah, blah. But actually the gambling industry that's targeting really vulnerable Australians often is making bank. So, yeah, it was awesome seeing him in action. Legend.
You've converted me. I want to go to a writers' festival now, B.
Hey, great. Let's go next year. Perfect.
Yeah, because, with music festivals, sometimes if the song is too long, you're like, oh, I want to switch tense. But I guess
you also don't love you don't love a music festival. Like, you were never that into them.
Look, I just don't like the rain and the mud and all that. And it always rains at every festival I've ever been to in my life.
Do you remember when we went to Splendor? This was one of my favourite Molly quotes of all time. And you said, because we were having some drinks before we went in, and you were like, oh, I feel a bit bloated and now I need to go to the toilet. And you said, okay, I've got this like really good business idea. Imagine if instead of like having to drink all this alcohol, you could just like take it in like a little pill or something. And I'm like, yeah, Mol, it's been invented. It's called drugs. It was so cute. You were just so like,
sorry, I'm so naive and innocent. Yeah. But do you remember in Byron, I dropped you guys off at a music festival?
Oh yeah.
And this was like, I had a girlfriend in the car, and then I dropped you off, and these guys came up to me and they're like, hey, we cannot get a taxi. Would you mind just dropping us into Byron? We'll pay you like 30.
This was pre-Uber. I will just point out.
We'll pay you $30. And I was like, jump on in. And then we drop them off, and then these people come up to us. They're like, hey, could you just drop us off at the festival? We'll pay you $50. We can't get any transport. We were like, get on in. Next minute, we literally are putting down plastic on the car floor. We've become Uber for the day. We made $350 in 2 hours. Cash.
Also, you made us pay to drive us into the festival. You're like, yeah, it'll be $50. I'm like, Molly, come on.
Well, you're going to get a cab, which was $100. Support my business dreams.
Yeah, that was hilarious. You went from like dropping us off to like, I see a business opportunity, and next minute it's like black plastic's down. You're like driving people left, right and center. It was so good.
Absolutely. Want a bottle of water? That's an extra $50.
I'm going to upsell, captive audience. Yeah. So what have you been up to? Still in Bangkok?
Yes, I'm still in Bangkok. I went to a market on the weekend which had 15,000 stalls. I kid you not. It was huge. I got this hat. Isn't it cool?
Okay. For our listeners, can you read what it says on it? Molly's just put a grey cap on her head.
It says, make your own money and marry someone funny.
And did you get that made up?
Yeah, they had like a embroider and a hat. So it was like $10. And I really wanted it, like I wanted the text a little bit bigger. But yeah, you could get like anything embroidered onto a hat. And I was like.
Is this like a product line you're going to bring out and you're just like testing it out? Or is it a message you just really want to send?
It's just a message I want to send out to people in a country where, and like you can see people stopping and reading it as well. I'm like, yeah, go do that. Anyway, and then what else? Oh yeah, Amali projectile vomited everywhere when we were at the markets.
So fun.
That was fun.
What a vibe.
Just kept coming and kept coming.
She's great fun to take out.
Honestly though, the darling girl, she was like, bah, and then she's like, okay, where are we going next? I'm like, she made a quick recovery. They do recover
remarkably quickly after a quick projectile vomit. It's amazing. Like as an adult, I feel like even if you felt okay, you'd be like, I got to go lie down for the rest of the day. Kids are just like, anyway, gastro was fun. Let's go.
We went to a mall yesterday because I had to get Amali a few more things. And what I'm just constantly shook about in Thailand and Bangkok is just the amount, the scale. It is just next level and everything works, everything's clean. But you just go to the food court. There's like literally like 40 different places you can eat, but every single one of them is branded beautifully. Like, how do Western countries compete with this?
Yeah, and how do we get it so wrong? Like, you go to any, shopping center here, and it's like pretty basic chains and some like really crappy like small businesses. And obviously we have amazing cafes and cafe culture, particularly here on the Gold Coast and in Australia. But like in your standard kind of shopping centre, it's pretty grim.
You walk down the street, there's a couple of bars. I'm like, if these bars are on the Gold Coast, it'd be like the coolest things on the Gold Coast. Like they're just so unique, so much thought. And what I just keep finding very interesting as well is they're just so set up for parents and mothers. And it's like they haven't forgotten. Like sometimes in Australia, I feel like they forget about mothers. But here...
They don't forget. They're not even being thought of, like in the
they're
design.
so being thought of in design. And even like in the bathrooms, they have like bathrooms for the elderly. They're like, this cubicle's for the elderly.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
No, neither. And I was like, yes, this is what we...
So not disabled, it's like
No,
for the elderly.
And it's got like a bar that you can hold on to. Like you'll go onto these floors and there would just be education and kids zones. And no joke, it's just like the funnest place if you're a kid to be.
Your pitch to get me to come and meet you in Thailand is going quite well. I will give you that. I've got my two boys home with me. And so I'm, other than the little bits of time that I work, it is really hard to find anywhere to go with them. Like, so you end up at the park or like whatever. But even to go, there's like 2 cafes on the Gold Coast that have like a little toy bucket in the corner, a little toy area. And I really appreciate the thought and effort that's gone into that. But otherwise it's like, sorry, just don't go anywhere with your kids. Like stay at home, please,
Yeah. Also, what was interesting is like there is coding for kids, there's dance for kids, there's little gymnastics for kids. There's so many different like businesses that are all just like for children. And I was just like, me and my partner were walking around, we're like, oh my God. And obviously like we're talking like in the shopping centers, it's very like targeted probably at an expat community. So like definitely making that clear.
Yeah, it's not all of Thailand, I understand. Like we're talking about, a city.
Like I went past the kids' hairdresser and you know how sometimes they'll have the car? They had mini convertibles and there was a ball pit in the hairdressers. What I'm just kind of blown away with is just like, again, really good parent rooms. It's just not what I was kind of expecting when I thought, oh, we'll go to Thailand.
Wow.
But pleasantly surprised.
Back home in Australia, I've got some good news for you. This week we actually hit 500,000, 500,000 home batteries installed, which is pretty exciting because that's in the last year. So we've hit 500,000 just since the scheme came out a year ago, the government scheme to like give you a rebate basically. So we've got more than that total in the country. I think it's about 600,000, but 500,000 in 1 year. It's astounding. But the really cool thing about that is it actually is stabilizing the grid and it's bringing power prices down overall, because at night now we're not having to use expensive gas during those peak hours because everyone's soaked up the solar during the day and then they're using their batteries. So whether you have a battery or not, we're all benefiting from it. And yeah, we're actually, I feel like Australia is being referenced a lot around the world as like a hopeful story, a bright spot, when people are like feeling a bit doomy and gloomy.
Yeah, it just makes sense. Like we have so much sun and it's so hot.
Yeah.
I am actually surprised like in more Asian countries there's not more solar because it is so hot. There's so much heat. I'm like, you guys could be powering your country.
Yeah, well, Australia's really leading the way in rooftop solar and now batteries as well, which is great. But yeah, it just makes sense, doesn't it? Harness the free source, unlimited sun.
Yeah. I actually remember being in Athens and it was one of the hottest days I've ever experienced in my life. And I looked out and we're on top of this hill, we're looking over Athens and I didn't see any solar and I just thought, what wasted, and then everyone had their air conditioning on and I just remember thinking like, what a wasted opportunity.
Something I've been wanting to ask you about is ethical investing, because I know you know a bit about in this space.
Yeah.
But for people that want to, make sure their money is going into something that aligns with their values, like where do you begin?
Yeah, so I think what's important to note when you are looking at investing your money is what matters to you. If you're someone who doesn't want to invest in, coal and gas and oil, then you can actually look for funds that screen out those kinds of companies. And then you can also, so there's ethical investing on one hand, but then there's also like impact investing as well, where you're actively investing in companies that are kind of doing good. So they might be leading the charge on the clean energy movement. So I think the most important thing is to work out, what do you value? Are you happy for your money to be invested into that? So a lot of us with our super funds, we're probably invested into a lot of companies we don't even realize we're invested in, where if someone had come up to us individually and said, would you want to be invested in this? You'd probably be like, oh, no.
That's such a good point, isn't it? Because I feel like we think of our super funds just like a big just lump of money somewhere, but it's actually like a share portfolio, really, isn't it? Like is it?
Yeah, your money is invested into what we call lots of different asset classes. So absolutely shares. So that's just another way to think of shares is companies, like international and Australian companies, but then also different asset classes as well. So bonds and property too, and commodities like gold, silver, etc. So it will be invested into a range of different things.
Yeah, and I know it's interesting for me because we've been looking at this recently with Byron's super fund, because he's invested in one that, is obviously has a sustainable bent, but the returns have been not great for this fund. So we were getting some advice recently from someone who does actually specialize in ethical and sustainable investment, but was like, but that doesn't mean we need to be getting poor returns. Like this is not good enough kind of thing. So that was really interesting as well. It's like what aligns with you, but it doesn't mean you also have to sacrifice income, right?
Yeah. And what I find interesting is if you look at some of the global ETFs available in Australia, which are global ethical ETFs, they're very similar to the NASDAQ 100. And if you don't know what the NASDAQ 100 are, it's pretty much the top 100 technology companies in America. So it's non-financial companies in America. So you've got like the NVIDIAs, the Teslas,
What's NVIDIA? I don't actually know that.
That's the big chip company. They make all the chips and they are like something
So it's
like
huge, yeah.
It's like huger than huge. Like 1 year it did 600%. Like it's huge.
Can't believe I didn't know that company name. Anyway.
Really? NVIDIA.
That's why you're here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It rings a bell, but I couldn't have told you what they made.
Do you want to guess how much NVIDIA is worth?
Like $1 trillion.
5.45 trillion. So they're a big company.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, they're quite large. Should probably
They're a
know
big
about
one.
them. Thank you. That's why you're here.
But again, like obviously we're seeing the boom in AI. So why a lot of my investments have done well is because they actually have NVIDIA in them. So I didn't just invest all in my money into NVIDIA. I invested into a NASDAQ 100, which meant that it included NVIDIA. So it's always just a couple of companies that actually need to do well for that whole ETF to do well, which is interesting. You don't need every single company in an ETF to do well. You only need a couple.
So, Mo, for our listeners, if they're sitting here, some of them might be investors, some might not be.
Yeah.
For the ones that aren't but would like to get started and might be interested also in ethical investing, like where do you begin? Just like what's one action they could go and take to get started?
Yeah, and what's interesting is it's always women who are leading the charge in ethical investing. And it's been like that since I lived in London. And I think for that, it's like women really care. And men, I'm sure there's men out there who do too, but there's a real force with women who actually care and want to make sure that their money is not doing harm.
I love that.
So there's Responsible Investment Association Australia, the AIRR. So you can actually search their database and it lets you search for funds that are certified as responsible investments. And it shows whether a fund has negative screens. So that's like taking out gambling and gaming or alcohol or whatever. Again, it comes back to a certain criteria. But what's interesting, again, where I'll say that is, with the different companies that are putting these funds together, there's not one criteria which says this is what makes a fund ethical. Each company gets to decide. And so you might think toll roads are fine, but someone else might be like, well, I think toll roads are bad because roads should be free, public roads, it should be public. Or you might be like, look, I don't have an issue with pornography. Someone else might have an issue with pornography. You might not have an issue with alcohol. Someone else might. So again, that's where it like changes person to person.
Yeah, there's no like a globally defined ethical standard, basically. You got to figure out where you sit and then find something that aligns.
Once again, the difference between exchange traded funds and other funds is they're transparent. So you can actually see what that ETF is invested in. So you can actually literally go through and go, just wait, I don't agree with that. I don't feel like that's ethical. I don't want to invest my money into that. So you can actually do your own research.
You can see the list of everything that's in that chocolate box on the website.
Exactly, yes. And there's another website as well called Leaf Ratings, and it actually you can look at different funds and it will actually say how like ethical against their criteria they think that fund is.
Okay, and then just once again, top line for someone that might be listening and thinking, I'd like to ethically invest. Okay, I've got the sense of these websites or some things I could go look up. But then like, how do you practically do it? Can you just do it through the usual stock market or?
Yeah, so if you were buying an ethical ETF or a clean energy ETF or whatever it is, you would just go the way you would normally do. So generally through a broker. So again, if you wanted to buy a lipstick, you could buy a lipstick from Mecca, from Priceline. You could buy it from Sephora. Same with that ETF. You could buy it from NabTrade. You could buy it from CommSec, Perla, Self-Wealth. There's lots of different brokers out there.
Right, so the broker's just like the platform that you buy it on.
Yeah, exactly. So B, you've been doing a challenge online at the moment and the internet seems to be going crazy for it. Can you explain?
Yeah, so I signed up for the Yap Challenge in the first cohort. This woman online, Jessie, she's an American chick who just started sharing her journey of being like, I'm a career confused, 35-year-old. And I don't really know what I'm doing next. So I'm just going to start documenting. And she amassed this massive online following. Like in the space of 6 months, she gained like 300,000 followers. But for me, I was like, why is this random chick I've never met before suddenly my favorite person on the internet? And so then she announced a few months into it, hey, I'm going to do a course to show you like what I've done. And it was really reasonable. It was 297 American dollars. And I was like, take my money. I just want to learn from you. Because I love you. So I've learned heaps from doing it. She made $7.5 million from doing this very small offer, right?
And that's US as well. Wow.
Yeah. In the space of a month, she's made like $7.5 million. It's crazy. So the internet's just going nuts about it. The Yap Challenge, it's called. And I think what's been really interesting though is because she just very honestly and vulnerably was like, hey, I am career confused and I don't know what I want to do next. And I have a toddler, so I want to be able to work flexibly. I want to work from home. And so she started like flipping furniture and then made a $37 ebook that you could buy and was just kind of playing and testing around. But what I loved about it is because like I feel career confused. I think a lot of women in this phase of life do, right? Because you're looking after children, your life has changed dramatically, but also you want more flexibility. And you also, like for me to spend time away from my children, I want it to be work that I really want to do. So I think a lot of women feel like that. I know, if you're listening, do you feel like that? I want to know, like, are you hitting a point where work has changed its meaning and what you want to do has changed,
Yeah, and I think, and obviously not all women, just a couple that I've spoken to, they've also expressed how they just, after kids, what they were doing before just doesn't light them up anymore, or the care factor is just not there anymore. They're like, nah, like I've changed. That's just not important to me anymore.
Totally. And also whilst, post-COVID, there's a lot more flexible working. You can work from home. Not all workplaces can do that. Some are really staunchly against it. And it still feels like the modern workplace and the 9 to 5 really is set up when you've got a family where one partner stays at home to do all the kids' drop-offs and pickups. And, like if you've got to drop a kid off at 9 and pick them up by 3, that's a very short work day by the time you get home to get stuff done. So, unless you've got extreme wealth or someone that can do all the pickups and drop-offs, like it's a real juggle for modern families. So
it's
I think
so tiring for modern families.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I'm just always like, they must be exhausted.
Increasingly, I think women are just like, I'm over it. I don't sign up to this model anymore. I saw something on Instagram a little while ago and it resonated so strongly. It was just this beautiful shot of the ocean. And I was like, are you telling me the world looks like this and I'm meant to put my babies like in care from 9 till 5 and work? Like while there's all this like, there's got to be a better way. And I think increasingly our generation's like, this sucks. I don't want to do this, So what it is, it's 42 days where she gives you different ideas every day for like a little video you can film just to speak on camera. And so this might be if you have a business or you want to build an online following or you just want to get better at your communication. I think even if you are someone that just thinks, I want to be able to connect with people better, you should do this course. It's really fantastic. She gives so much value. Like honestly, she could have charged $2,000 for this course. It's so good. But it's giving the ideas, but also just the encouragement to play and experiment. And she's like, you're only going to get good by doing it. And she's like, you've got to climb Cringe Mountain where you're like, I don't want people to see me like sharing and talking about stuff on the internet. And she gave me a lot of permission as well to know it's okay if you don't have all your content pillars figured out and you know exactly what you want to talk about. Like just talk about the things that light you up, but talk about them in a way that is authentic. And she's big on, so like some tips that you might be interested in, Mol. She's like, look at that camera. Like don't look around the room and try and whatever, like keep eye contact.
Yeah, that's interesting because whenever I'm thinking, I always look up when I'm thinking and
Yes.
I've got to not do that.
But I also like she said, bring the energy. Often we're told like, and then be 120% of your energy, which just also feels really fake and forced. She's like, no, actually, it should be sort of the energy that you would bring to a first date where it's a little bit like heightened. You're putting your best self forward. There's that energy there. It's not like that it's flirty, but it's just you're putting your best self forward, but it's intimate, So you're talking to one person and she said, and don't do the sort of, hey everyone, how you going? She's like, no one's sitting there with 5 other people watching you. Like they're on their bed, they're on the toilet, they're on their commute. And she has just mastered how to just connect with another human through the screen. And it's a superpower, I think. But what ultimately I took away from this Yap Challenge and from Jessie Jean just being herself was how she has just shown up very honestly. And she's like, rather than like pretending we've all got it together and we're all like, yeah, I've got my life sorted out, my career. She's tapped into something, I think mainly because she's speaking aloud a truth that so many women are feeling at this point. And the lesson there is don't hide the bits that you're almost, you obviously don't want to share everything on the internet and overshare, but actually sometimes sharing the bits that feel really hard and feel really vulnerable to share is the thing that's going to connect the most with people, because it makes them feel seen and understood, right?
Because like with Ladies Finance Club at the moment, I need to relook at my membership and redo that. And then that's a conversation I'm trying to work out at the moment. Do I share the journey of that going, hey, this isn't quite working. We need to mix it up. And I've got someone who's come on board to help me. Or do I not share that and go, because I don't want, again, it's that combination of I don't want people to think I'm not successful, or I want people to think like I don't know what I'm doing, but it's actually just like working out what next, or how do we adapt this?
Well, totally. I feel exactly the same because, I'm writing, I'm doing a bit like I want to do more speaking, I'm emceeing, like, I'm off to Canberra this week to do an event there. But I am still very much trying to work out how do I work in this new world with children and making it work with the time and the juggle and what lights me up the most. And also, I've been having some beautiful conversations over the last week with some different mentors and people saying like, it's time to evolve your story now and embrace all the things that you really love. The stuff like climate change I'm really passionate about, and renewable energy and the transition that's underway. I can't like really easily find a way that fits into the story of what I've been doing till now, but I've sat with a few people that have actually really encouraged me to work out how to bring it all together. You don't have to park or hide bits that are the things that get you most excited. It's actually going forward. This is I was talking to Michelle Broadbent-Moll, who and we love. She's a business mentor, but she said this is a re-emergence now. And I kind of love that idea for women in this period of life. Like you don't have to, she said, I feel like you're maybe just, trying to fit yourself back into the packaging you were in.
What you said, which I think is a really great starting point from a practical sense. So if you're listening and you're feeling a little bit maybe this way as well, like what you're doing isn't working or you want change, then go have that conversation with someone. And even if you have to pay someone money, like a business coach, or just, I know when I was working full time, I was like, this is not what I was put on the planet to do. And I paid a business coach. He was quite young at the time. He'd just started his business. And it was the most important thing I did as far as getting Ladies Finance Club set up, because he just asked me really basic questions that I'd never thought about. He was like, who can help you, Molly? Name 5 people who can help you right now. And I said, there's no one who can help me. He's like, let's just think about this, Molly. Like, is there anyone at work who would help you? And is there anyone maybe in your, and I was like, oh, there's this one lady I met and and then there's maybe someone else and maybe I could actually, and I realized I was surrounded by people who were willing to help me.
Totally. And I think a friend shared this with me once. He just said there's actually more people willing to help you than you would ever have time to like take them up off it, And I think approaching it with that abundance mindset, not of like, who's going to help me? And they don't know. It's like, actually, there are so many people. There are strangers that you don't even know that would be willing to help you. But it's about you just getting a bit of clarity on who that is and asking, And yeah, some people might say no, but it doesn't matter. There's so many people.
And this is why I think even if you hate social media, why it's so important to be on social media, because that's where you can actually go and say, help, like, hey, like I need to speak to someone knows someone who can talk to me about XXX. But like, it's just a great channel to help get a message out there as well. So if you can slowly be building that. And, I think of Ladies Finance Club, it literally started with my friends and family. That's where it started. And then I remember that first event I ever did where there was not one person in the audience I knew. And I was like, whoa, like that's always an exciting moment. All right, B, what's got to go for you this week?
You probably can't tell from the recording, but I've absolutely cooked my back this weekend walking around in crappy, fashionable sneakers. So I'm like, what's got to go is just shoes that like look cool, but are not very good for you. I'm going to go get like some proper orthotics. But I want like a fashion trendy sneaker, but I also want it to not screw my back because like I'm not going to be able to stand after this podcast.
Okay,
I'm going to be stuck here for the rest of the day.
I got a pair of New Balance fashionable sneakers. They're the most comfortable things ever, and you can they're the best, and you can
Okay,
walk
great.
in them. So they exist. You just need to find them.
Can you send me a photo of them? And also, if you're listening and you have recommendations for a really comfortable shoe, that's also cool. Please send it to me.
But do you know what I do now, Brandy? I literally go into a shop and I say, what is your most comfortable shoe you sell? And they
Is
go,
this post baby?
no, I've always done this. It was about maybe like 5 years ago I started doing this. It was after I was introduced to the world of Clarks. Now we think of Clarks as an ugly school shoe. In America, they do really...
Oh, you got me into Clarks. I've been wearing those wedges for literally 10 years. I'm still obsessed with them. I can't throw them out.
Yes. So they do great, actually really great comfy shoes. And then since then I was like, life's too short for uncomfortable shoes. So I'm glad you've come to team comfy shoes.
What about you, Mole? What's got to go?
I think what's got to go, and I don't know if I've done this one before, but like after just seeing the incredible setup for kids in Thailand, I think what's got to go is just like ignoring the fact that women have kids and like, it's not just like they have kids for a short period of time. It's always refreshing. There's always more people with more kids coming through. It's not like this.
The kids aren't going to stop. They're coming.
So like
there's more.
If you're listening and you're looking for a business idea, something cool, cafe, kids area, make it really fun.
Make it fun for the mum, fun for the kids.
Yeah. What's got to go is pretending that we don't have kids and not having any facilities for them.